CATRASTROPHE. CATS-trophy. CATRASTROPHE. Nope. It all fell apart, guys. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ben with Mechanized Cleaning Solutions. Everything came apart at the seams this morning. We are not starting the big project on time. It's not going to happen now. Here's what's going on. We were getting everything ready this morning, loading everything up, and I had to go do a little check-in with our wastewater disposal contractor company that we take all our stuff to, because you got to just make sure that we go take on a bunch of water, wash water, we're gonna be able to get rid of it, keep the project on tap. So turns out, after we had this big snowstorm when we were all snow plowing, the company we take all the wastewater to, it's the only thing open to private companies that you can go to, unless you're doing like storm drains and you got a Vactor truck and you're cleaning storm drains, you can go to the county decamp facilities. But if you're just like picking up wash water in the private market, you can't go to those facilities. You got to go somewhere else. So we use a company called Marvac, and over the weekend, during the last part of the cold snap, they had like a major water main break somewhere in the plant and flooded the whole place out. They're completely shut down. They're not taking any wash water for like a week, and that's a huge problem. We scrambled and tried to come up with like a 5,000 gallon poly tank rental that we could just drop in our parking lot, just some place to put wash water for a couple of days until the plant gets opened back up, because we're picking up so much every night, we can't just like let it sit in the truck. The truck fills up like 2/3 full every single night. So, and we have to keep this situation empty and flowing so we keep the project going, because each night we're doing 80,000 square feet. So our wastewater disposal contractor is totally shut down, and it's a disaster. It's totally bad. I had to call the client and be like, hey, it's out of my hands, but we're not going to be able to start on time unless I can come up with the tank rental. And so we called around Rain for Rent. We called United Rentals. We're like, anywhere we could find a 5,000 gallon plastic tank. Usually they're pretty easy to get a hold of. You just call them. You can rent them for like 20 bucks a day or whatever, and a couple, $200-300 bucks for delivery. And you could just drop this in your parking lot at your shop, and we can just use the pump truck and just blow the water out into that thing every day. And then when the plant opens up, I could take the day and just do 3 or 4 runs and empty that thing out, and then have it picked up and just continue on like nothing ever happened. But apparently nobody's got a tank for rent. All the tank rental company places around here, they're all like, yeah, we don't have any available till spring. I was like, what the hell is going on? So it was just like this confluence of just bad timing, bad weather, breaking everything, and yeah, no good. So the client was very gracious. They're like, look, we understand it's not you, it's them, and it is what it is. They made some calls with the end user, the owners, and they're like, yeah, it started a week later. So we're gonna bump the project back another week, give the disposal facility a chance to get back on their feet. And then when I got back to the shop to finish loading up out of the big truck, I'm like, well, let's give them a last little test run, the hot water machines here. And this morning, turn this thing on, and you won't believe it. The first thing that happened, and this just happens, it ran for about 3 seconds. These things are very well maintained, but things go wrong. They're engines. You got hunks of metal spinning around at thousands of miles an hour, and shit breaks. And what happened was the camshaft totally came apart on this thing. Actually, what it is, there's a plastic gear that's kind of permanently mounted on a metal camshaft, and these plastic gears break. It's a common failing to the new GX690s. What happens is they get hot because it's an air-cooled engine. It does have a liquid oil cooler on the side over here. That piece of aluminum with those fins actually does a little bit to cool the oil, but it's basically an air-cooled engine. And they get hot because they run these things lean because of all this stupid California emissions bullshit. Usually when you want an engine to run a little cooler, you just put a little more fuel through it. That helps bring the temperatures down in the combustion chamber. But when you run them lean to make them like crazy, stupid fuel efficient, they run really hot, and it's bad for them. And this is just one of these constant things you got to deal with all these new emission standards. So the oil gets really hot. The process of these plastic gears getting super hot and then getting really cold and then getting really hot and then getting really cold and then getting really hot, they become brittle over time and they break. And it's a common failing to the GX690, the newer ones. Okay, here we go. Got the cover off. So on the bottom of the cover here, this goes just like this, right over the top, back on there. At the bottom, you have the oil pump gear. That little black thing on the bottom, that's the oil pickup tube. That is the engine governor gear. And that is, that's like an idler gear. So, and then that right there is that big one is the camshaft, and the camshaft gear, which is turned by the crankshaft. And you look on the camshaft gear, just those teeth got sheared right off. So that's what the problem is. See that right on the bottom of that gear? Just grounded right off. Fucking dog shit. All right, that's what we're doing. Okay, more to come, guys. And you'll see, we'll figure out how to replace this camshaft ourselves. Okay. So that engine is tits up. We're gonna have to get a new one. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get a new 690, throw it in that skid. I'm gonna take that 690 out, rip it apart, replace that camshaft, and then stick it on the shelf right there. So we got a spare 690 in case we ever need one again. That's just what's gonna happen. Now this broken engine wouldn't have been a problem for us because we just would have ran our backup machine. And we could just as easily run that machine for a week or 2 weeks or for the whole damn project. It wouldn't really matter to us. And then if the backup machine breaks, we got another one right there. So, you know, the engine problems weren't really the deal breaker on this. Really what it was the disposal facility shutting down for a week. Now that's pretty likely they're gonna get this situation corrected in a couple of days. They gotta hunt down this leak. It's sitting under about 3 foot of water right now. It's what happened. It was like a clean water main, like a tap water main, like a big ass 6-inch main. Somehow I got a crack in it when it got really cold. And it's just like hundreds of gallons per minute. It's just like flooding the place, and it's filling up all their settling tanks. They just have no room to take in new wastewater because they got some unknown infiltration coming in to screw the whole thing up. So, sorry guys, we do not get to do what I really wanted to do, which is take you guys and show you on the first night on this project. We kind of show off a little bit, show you guys what we're doing. But reality conspired to kind of put the kibosh on the whole thing, so we got to go at the speed of the rest of the world. But some good things came out of this whole thing. Let me explain that to you. So as we were like, you know, we don't like to fail. That's not in our DNA. We like to get shit done no matter what happens. That's like what we're all about here. And that's one of the reasons why our customers hire us, because we're just like super reliable. You know, something breaks, it doesn't matter. We're going to get the job done anyway. Some thing goes wrong, we just deal with it. We're pressure washers, but more accurately, we're like professional problem solvers. And that's really what you got to be when you get into this kind of work. You got to be the type of person that just doesn't ever get discouraged. Or when you do get discouraged, it doesn't stop you from getting your mission accomplished. So our natural inclination when we hear something like the disposal facility is shut down is not to just throw up our hands and give up. It's to go, what can we do to fix this situation and keep the project on track? We're like psycho about getting our jobs done. And so we went into crazy problem amelioration mode, and we were looking for tank rentals. But one thing that came out of that whole process, and it's funny, the amount of things that just would not let us get through. You know, normally, you know, when you have problems in jobs, it's like actually not that hard to solve them. If you're really actually dedicated to your work, most things that happen are not that big of a deal to deal with. Even if they seem kind of catastrophic on the surface, they're like, well, just, you know, taking a quick breath and putting your head on it for a couple of minutes usually yields a pretty easy to implement solution. But this was just like one thing after another. We just could not get ahead of the challenge. It almost felt like the universe just did not want us to start this week. No matter what happened, it just was not going to let us start. You know, by the time we started getting on top of the tank situation, then the engine broke down. It was just like one thing after another. So, you know, thankfully the client was rather unconcerned about the actual start date. It didn't really seem like it mattered that much. We're like completely happy to let it go off for a week. So that's all really good news. But one of the really good things that came out of this was we found a brand new disposal company that we can go to, that they just basically opened up they're like a lot of people around these parts. They have their own wastewater kind of processing operation, like vacuum truck companies, stuff like that, but they don't let other people come to their facility because it's just for them. But this one company up in Everett, they decided to like make some moves, and they're like, you know what, we want to open up a public facility. So they've been taking steps over about the last 6 to 8 months to allow other companies, and there's a lot of regulation that goes into this. Like, it's one thing when you're just kind of doing your own wastewater, but when you start accepting stuff from other places, from other companies, you don't know what's in that shit. You don't know how toxic it is. You have a lot of paperwork, a lot of environmental testing that has to get done. So for this company to go ahead and do this is like amazing. Like, for the longest time, it's just been like Marvac around here. I mean, you could go to Emerald, but Emerald's like notoriously hard to get set up with. And Marvac's pretty good. But this other company, I wrote their name down. I talked to the owner of them today. Super cool guy. They're like, he sounded like he was like really excited to do business with us. He's like, yeah, we'll bring you a poly tank down tomorrow, and here's what our wastewater rates is, and we'd really like you guys to come up here and bring your stuff to us. So I was like, this is amazing. We now have another option. And it's cool because it's located like on the completely opposite end geographically as our main place. So it's like we got a place in the south historically. Now we have a place in the north we can go to. And but yeah, we had no idea these people existed. And this guy's awesome. His name is I think his name is Jack, the owner's name. And they seem like they want to get after it. They're just like, hey, come on in, bring your stuff here. It's basically like the same situation you've been going to. It's just up here in Everett, and it's just like amazing for us. So now we have like a backup option or just another option when we're like working up in the north. And it turns out these guys have their own poly tank, or at least one or maybe more of them sitting around, and it's not doing nothing, and they're real keen to rent it to us. So it's a good situation for them. They get to rent their tank out to us. It's a really good situation for us. We get to drop this tank in our shop so that, if we have another problem getting rid of wastewater, we have this temporary solution in place. So that's what's going on. We're going to wind up starting a week late, and I'm going to be in engine repair mode, fixing a camshaft. So you guys get to see, I've never actually done one of these because, we've always run like I said, you guys know from my previous videos, I'm really fond of these older GX 670s. These are the last generation Honda engine. These are my favorite. These things are fucking bulletproof. These things, way better than everything else. These newer 690s and 630s, they're better than the Kohlers and the Briggs and Strattons and all that crap. But the new ones aren't as good as the old ones, and it mostly has to do with all this carb bullshit and all the computers, electronics, and all that finicky shit they put on there. It's just not the old reliable, old yeller back here. These guys right here, man, these things right here, you guys find one of these things, swoop it up. Or call me and I'll swoop it up. These things are awesome. They just run forever. You don't really ever have problems with them. You can't fix in your shop in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe an hour. And the newer ones are a little more problematic, but that's what it is. It's 2021. It's not 1990 anymore. So now this is what we get to work with. So, well, shit. I gotta say, this whole day has just been a wild ride. Last night, you guys saw that I was just in a poopy mood last night because I was just racing to get everything set up. And it was just like bumping into these freaking logistical roadblocks all morning. Just this thing going wrong, that thing going wrong. I'm like, what is happening? It's like, this is like the weirdest thing ever. It just seems like the universe does not want us to start this project for some fucking reason today. And I was trying everything in my power to make this project happen today. But the death blow was Marvac's water main breaking. It's another company. I have no control over what they're doing. That's another company, And honestly, those guys are pretty squared away. I mean, they're a little rough around the edges. You ever interact with those guys, they're a trip. They got this whole pineapple thing going on. It's like fucking pineapples on all their vacuum trucks. Like, I love Marvac. I've been with those guys for a long time. The owner of the company, he just died a couple of years ago. The original owner, he was this interesting guy named Charlie who started back in the 70s with his own vacuum truck and just like built up this whole thing from scratch. It's this crazy story. But the whole team down there, they're all good guys. They work really hard and they have really tough jobs. They're dealing with all this wastewater and processing it, and it's separating fuel and oil and all kinds of shit. I mean, things go wrong. It's not their fault. And for a private company, they're pretty resilient. But that's beyond our ability to do anything about. And I certainly don't have fucking $3 million to go build my own wastewater processing facility, or fucking 20 million, or however much that would cost. That is something we're gonna do. We are going to do it, and we're gonna do it with plants and bioremediation. We're gonna get super fucking liberal hippie on you, man. We're gonna be doing the super awesome environmental wastewater processing. We're gonna get completely off of the state sanitary sewer system, which sucks. We're gonna get away from that. We're gonna find a way to do it better, because that's what the private market does. It does everything better than government does it. Everything. Everything is done better by smart, competent people instead of stupid, overpaid bureaucrats who have no idea how to freaking balance a checkbook. They just don't know how to do. All they know how to do is steal money from people. That's what the government does. They're organized thieves. They're just the gang that became the bosses of everybody. Okay, I'm getting a little anti-government on you. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate the government that much. I just hate this government right now, the current one. Wink, 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 wink. All right, guys, that's what's going on. We're gonna keep you posted on what's happening. So what I did was I had some jobs that were just kind of like in the wind. So we are going to be doing a bunch of oddball stuff, some pressure washing jobs. We're going to clean out a sump pit in Bellevue for a clogged up garage sump pit. Some guy's basement's flooding, and we're going to go help him clean that thing out and do some normal pressure washing stuff that I just normally wouldn't do this week because we were going to be busy with this project. But since we got an opening and we got some employees that need some work, we're going to go ahead and switch gears and go knock that stuff out for the next week. Wait for the disposal plant to get their operation back up, and then start the project a week late. Which means it'll go a week late, which means we'll be doing a big job for an extra week. It's just all how you look at it, right? Look at the bright side. All right, guys. And since we have another week now, that means, what does that mean? That means I get to show you how to hook up and clean out and tune up a burner, a hot water Beckett oil burner. That's really important in reclamation pressure washing, because one of the main reasons guys don't use hot water is because it's basically illegal if you're not picking up water. So if you have vacuums, right? If you're picking up wash water, now you can start using hot water, and you can basically start cleaning shit way better than everybody else. And you can use soaps and detergents and all that good stuff, and you can basically just do a much better job. So that's what's happening. All right, guys, have a good night. We'll put this up tonight and start taking you along with me in camera views. We're fixing stuff, and I can't wait to get you guys in and get this project going, and get all the guys working, blasting out 80,000 square feet a night. That's going to be really good for everybody. And we got a whole bunch of new guys, so we're going to basically be training the next generation. We got all the old vets. They're going to basically be in supervisor mode, and we're going to stick all the new guys. They're going to be the ones pushing surface cleaners all night, teaching them how to use those things. So we're going to bring up the next generation within our little company. That's what we're going to be doing. All right, guys, have a good night. We'll talk soon. See you later. Oh, my glove got in the way. Let me say goodbye properly. All right, guys, I love you. See ya. All right.